Fire off your take first.
This is my take. So we are a week and a day removed from the national championship.
Feels like it was 6 weeks ago.
It does feel a very long time ago. I think collectively, as a whole, I'm not pointing out any specific people or this podcast alone, I think we overreacted to how bad TCU was in that game. And here's why. Now, the game itself in a vacuum, horrifically bad. Boring. A lot of people who are college football haters can point to that and say, see, why would I want to watch this product? This was not good. The semifinals were great, whatever. However, I think that as a college football fandom world, we sat and said, did the committee get it right? Should they have even been there? That game was so bad. It should have been Alabama. It should have been Ohio State. It should have been whatever. We all had those takes or even those thoughts in our head. And a week and a day removed, what I look at is they deserve to be there because they beat Michigan. I mean, that you can't help that. And TCU's season, we buried so fast because of how bad they looked against the best college football team in the country, the new dynasty in college football, that now I look back, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, Georgia was just that much better than them. That was a hell of a season for TCU, and they were a really good football team. I think we overreacted.
I think there's a couple of truths in there and a lie. TCU deserved to be there.
Yes.
TCU earned the trip there.
Yes.
TCU should have been in the playoff. TCU should have been in that championship game. Hell, they won the playoff game.
Right.
That's how it works. So they should have been there. They were not a very good team. And everything that they did to get there, boy, they had to have so many things go right for them this year. They had to have quarterbacks get hurt. They had to have this ball bounce this way, this ball bounce this way. And I still have no fucking idea what Jim Harbaugh in Michigan did for a month to come out and put that kind of performance against a TCU team who should not be beating Michigan.
But see, then when you look at that, I feel the same way about what the hell was Ohio State doing losing to a Michigan team when they almost beat Georgia in the semifinals. And I'm not saying that I'm putting TCU at the level of Georgia. You can't. We saw what happened when they played each other. But I feel like when I walked into this office on Tuesday last week after the game, and Alabama fans are one thing, but it was like, well, this is what you guys wanted. You wanted that championship game. That's what you wanted. I'm like, well, that's because that's what the championship game should have been.
But here's the problem, Casey.
What is the problem, Brandon?
College football is the only sport that gets judged for blowouts in the championship game.
Which is why I feel like we overreacted to it.
It's the only sport that gets judged as a whole by its championship game. People don't judge the NFL when there's a shitty Super Bowl.
No.
They get sad about it. They don't like it. But that 13-3 Rams-Patriots debacle a couple of years ago, that didn't make people say, oh, the NFL's rigged, the NFL's this, it's terrible, yada, yada, yada. No, you accepted the fact that year's Super Bowl wasn't very good. But college football, when they have a stinker in the football title game, oh, my God, this sport's broken. No, it ain't broken. In fact, it's the opposite of broken. You saw a TCU team who didn't have the recruits of anybody else. You saw a TCU team who didn't have the talent of Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama. You saw a TCU team go through week by week and earn their way to a championship game. If anything, this season, this run by TCU shows other teams it can be done.
Which is why I feel like we overreacted in the moment to how bad the national championship game was. Because if we believe everything that you just said, which I think we all do, that it came to fruition the way that it should have because of how TCU had their magical run, then we should have looked at that and said, yeah, it was a boring game for a lot of people, unless you're a Georgia fan. It was not fun to watch. The players were eating chicken at halftime. However, that we shouldn't bury the national championship game because this is the way it should have played out, and the game just didn't give us what we hoped that the semifinals would have.
Well, I will tell you all day long TCU deserved to be there, but I will stop short of saying TCU was a very good team. I just think TCU is one of those weird things in sports that just happened, and I don't know how repeatable it is. We'll see, but I'm never going to shit on TCU playing in that game. I am going to shit on the fact that TCU playing in that game probably robbed us of a better title game, but that's on everybody else, and it ain't on them.
And I think you tweeted it. I don't know which NFL game it was that you tweeted it during, but you said, "Oh, you know it was
the Jags."
Yeah, you joked around. Which obviously became an unbelievable game. But you were like, "Oh, we need to talk to the NFL committee. They got it wrong, or whatever it was." And that's why. And we have to instant react to games like that. We always will, if they're the best games ever, if they're the worst games ever. But you are so right when you say we judge the championship game, but we do that too. As people who live and breathe college football, we did the exact same thing. And a week later, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, the game sucked.
But we do it. We do it differently. We judge it separately from the season. We judge it separately. We judge it as a standalone thing.
Not as a whole sport.
Whereas casuals and outsiders will judge it and say, because this championship game was bad, the whole sport is bad. That's false.
Jack had some pretty good petty tweets about that too.
Well, Jack's a pretty good petty guy.
No, yeah, there were some people that was tweeting it as, like you said, I think that was a really great soundbite and then really good take, because this is a great discussion, that they took that game. It's the only college football game they watch, outside of maybe highlights on Twitter on a Saturday, and they say the sport stinks. First of all, it's football. Second of all, if it sucks, why do so many people watch it? And then third of all, we're only 2 years removed from everyone saying Alabama and Clemson would be in the national championship every year.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's just Alabama, Clemson, and then maybe Ohio State if they sneak in. Like, Georgia, no one thought about Georgia casuals, I'm saying, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, well, they did make it to the championship 5 years ago. Well,
But
let me say a decade ago.
Yeah, but casuals still probably don't even know that.
Yeah, so, I mean, it doesn't really matter. And it's also like, why? And I saw tweets like that from a lot of people. And then I thought to myself, like, why am I getting mad about something that I enjoy, a lot of people enjoy, and this person doesn't enjoy? Does it really matter? No. It's like, that person doesn't like it, whatever. He probably, or she probably likes things that I don't like. Yeah. But I was mad at myself for getting mad at it.
It's almost like, let's say, I'm going to use a horse racing example. When Secretariat won by 41 lengths, nobody said this sport is broken. They said, oh my God, what a fast horse. I feel like that's the same for Georgia. That's a fast-ass horse. And instead of saying this sport is broken, maybe just sit back and admire the race that Georgia just ran.